Excited to be here with you guys. Again, coming to you live on Instagram and on YouTube. So I hope you guys will continue to join me for these Window Wednesday lives where we just talk old windows. We talk anything and everything about old windows. You guys can send in your questions ahead of time. You can come on here. If you are just joining us on here, you can join the conversation. I'm taking all of your window related questions. You toss them into the chat, into the comments, and I will get to them at the end. I usually talk about a little bit of a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So today we're going to be talking about storm windows versus replacement windows. We're going to chat it up, but I wanted to give you guys some figures about storm windows and replacement windows because honestly, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about one, what a storm window is, when a storm window is appropriate, when you should, are there times for replacement windows? Are there times for storm windows? What's the advantages and costs of each? So I've got some links for you if you go visit this, if you're seeing this post on YouTube. If you're on Instagram, you can head over to YouTube and check it out. I've got a lot of resource links for you. So we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff today. So let's just dig right into the topic. So storm windows versus replacement windows. Let's start. I've got a long list here, so let me give you the list, and then I'm going to break them down here. First thing we're going to talk about is costs. Then we're going to talk about effectiveness. Then I'm going to get into appearance. That's always important, right? How's your window look? Then we're going to talk about available options. So there's a lot of different companies that some of y'all may not know even exist for replacement windows or for storm windows, and options for how you're going to go that way. And then we're going to get into lifespan, and last we're going to talk maintenance. Yes, there are things out there that can be maintained and things that can't be maintained. So that's why we're going to talk. That's how this conversation gets started. So any of y'all who have followed me on the Craftsman blog for a while, you know that I am a proponent of restoring windows whenever possible. And that, for me, it's the historic window. So anything like pre-1960, there's a few examples in the 60s and later, but usually anything before 1960 and especially before the 1950s, you've got historic windows, if they're wood or steel or things like that, that are really designed to just last indefinitely. And that's why you should restore them, not just because they're old. It's stupid to be like, well, I'm going to save this because it's old. There's some things you save because they're old, but there's the saying goes, it's not good because it's old because it's good. And that's a big part of it right there, is it's good because it's old? No. The reason it's old is because it's good. It was made so well that it has lived 80, 90, 100, 200 years. That's why these windows are worth saving, because they're that high quality. They really lasted. So one of the things that you're going to be considering if you've got old windows or an old house is you're going to be looking at it going, should I replace my windows or should I get storm? So I'm hoping I can give you some information, and that way you can make the decision. So I'm going to jump right in here on costs. So the average cost, and I used HomeWise for this, there's a million different places you can go to look for this information, a million different links. Angie's List, HomeWise, there's a cost versus renovation, there's all kinds of stuff. I'm sticking with one source for both of them. And the average cost that I found for window, let's do both of these, for storms is going to be $224 to $407 is what I was finding. I know that different people, some of y'all are going to jump on here and be like, I couldn't get a storm window for that much money, or it's going to be twice that much, or it's going to be half that much. I know it depends on where you live and who's around and who the manufacturers are and how long it takes to get to you and who's going to install it, all that stuff. But roughly the average from homewise.com is that you have between $224 and $407 for a new storm window on a window. Obviously a huge window going to be more, a small window going to be less. So something to think about. Your replacement window costs are going to be between $554 and $860. I've seen a lot of stuff that says for replacement windows that the average national cost for those is around $600. So I think that fits right in there with that. It's probably a little bit on the lower side. But then there's an article I've sourced on YouTube that talks about a Forbes article that says the average cost is between $200 and $1,800. So really, that's like saying, what does a car cost? It is more complicated. There's not a generic price for it. But looking at these two, apples to apples, knowing that a replacement window is usually going to cost you more than a comparable storm window for the same size window and everything, keep that in mind as you shop this. And we're talking maybe about half as much as a storm window should cost you compared to a replacement window. So if you're looking at like the super high end, Ferrari of replacement windows, you're probably paying like 2,000. And if you're looking for the super high end Ferrari of storm windows, you're probably looking at around 1,000. So keep that in mind. You're paying about half as much. So that's how the costs stack up in terms of putting that together for storm windows versus replacement windows. You have a lot to look at that's going to affect your price on all of these. So storm windows, you've got materials that are going to be aluminum or wood typically. I haven't found a lot of materials that are other than that. The glazing depends whether it's interior or exterior storm. We'll get into that. On replacement windows, you're going to have stuff that you'll find some aluminum windows. You'll find a lot of vinyl windows. You'll find some composite windows, some clad windows, or some wood windows. There's a lot more variety in the materials if you're looking at replacement windows versus storm windows, which are typically either wood or aluminum at this point in this part of the market. So you'll find historic storm windows that are on the exterior that are usually made of aluminum and glass. And then interior storm windows you can find are typically just acrylic panels with some kind of tubing around there. So we're not really, I see somebody's asking about the question already about windows for hurricane ready. We're not really talking about the like impact storm windows. We do actually do some of those at Austin Historical, my window company. We build some impact resistant windows using polycarbonate. So that's an interesting thing, but I'm just looking at these from a energy efficiency, and since this video is coming out in November, it's a good conversation for people to start having too. So let's look at the effectiveness of your windows. If you go to energystar.gov, you can dial in and find cities within your state. You can find all kinds of regional data on this. I can tell you right now in Orlando, Florida, it says on energystar.gov, there's a link to how much would you save with replacing your windows. So if you had single pane windows, doesn't matter if they're historic or if they're from the 1980s, single pane windows, if you go to double pane windows and you're in the Orlando, Central Florida area, and you do a typical size house, which they say is a 2,000 square foot house with, I think 15% glazing or so, it comes out to around 20 windows. If you're replacing around 20 windows, single pane to double pane, you should save around $155 per year on your energy costs. That's not a lot of money if you think about it, since you're spending between $400 and $800 or $500 and $800 per window. So if you do 20 windows, you're looking at a considerable expense. You're looking at tens of thousands of dollars to do that, and then you're only going to save $155 per the whole house, not per window, for the whole house. And the fact is, the majority of your energy costs are not your windows and doors. I know that marketing may try to cure you of that reality, but that is simply the reality. The majority of your heating and cooling costs come from your attic and roof. So for us down here in the South, if you put a black shingle roof on your house, it's just a big solar collector. Use lighter colors. I've posted quite a bit of this on the blog. You can go to the craftsmanblog.com and check it out. And it's all about the roofing material you use. Are you using black shingles or are you using silver metal tint shingles? That's going to be a huge difference in a southern climate. In a northern climate, it's not as big a difference in terms of the heat sink, but in winter and summer, you want to look at where you live. If you're in Maine, you should be doing different roofing practices and different attic insulation things than you would be doing in Florida. So it's just a regional difference. A lot of people tend to think it's a one size fits all. It is not a one size fits all. It is this is right for the state of Maine. This is right for Arizona. This is right for Florida. For every state across the country, it's always going to be a little bit different. And if you want the most bang for your buck energy efficiency wise, you need to custom tailor it. Going back though, it's really not all about the windows for your energy savings. If you're looking at what kind of energy savings are you going to get with storms, the WPSC, that's the Window Preservation Standards Collaborative, did some ASTM testing, so it's all on third-party testing on this, and this was in 2010, I believe. They found that the basically adding interior storms on an unrestored, just they left a regular old double-hung window and they put an interior storm on it. That storm improved the air sealing on it by 85%. And on an exterior, by adding just an exterior storm, it improved the air sealing by 61%, which honestly, if we're talking about energy efficiency, that's the biggest thing, right? It's the drafts through the windows. Is your window weather stripped? What's going on with the window. I have a lot of folks who will call me and like, I need to get my windows restored. They're super drafty and leaky. And I'll go out there and the windows are completely caulked and hermetically sealed from decades of paint and caulk. I'm like, your windows aren't drafty. They're completely sealed shut. Even a brand new window would be draftier than this because it has to have some space for operability. So do think about that going forward. If you've got old windows that are all caulked shut, they're not drafty. But adding an interior storm window or an exterior storm window can really cut down on the energy efficiency on the air sealing that you've got on that window. And you may be able to get there without having to go the replacement window route. Because what I hate is when I see people go, no, I need to save money on my energy bills. I'm going to replace my windows. And maybe there's a time and a place to replace your windows, but it's certainly not because you want to save on your energy bills long term. If you're not going to be in that house for 50 years, you're not going to make the money back. That's usually it's between 40 and 70 based on your type of window. 40 and 70 years to get the ROA on window replacement from your energy savings. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute if you look at the numbers. What does compute if you're like, hey, my windows are ugly and falling apart, security concerns, broken glass, different things depending on whether you have new windows, 80s, 90s, 2000 maybe, or if you've got historic windows, there's different things you should do to take care of that and resolve that. If you've got windows from the mid 80s and you don't like the way they look and you want to get replacement windows, then look at replacement windows, but don't think that your replacement windows are going to pay for themselves because they won't. Just like, putting new tile on your bathroom floor isn't going to pay for itself. It looks nice. I love it, but it's not putting any money in my pocket. So the effectiveness there on those, you're getting 155 down here in Central Florida. I did look at some of the stuff up in New England. It's closer to like $300 a year, but again, that's for the whole house on savings for replacement windows. I don't have numbers for what you would save on storm windows, but I know if you're sealing up by 85, anywhere from 61 to 85% air sealing, that's the way to go. And I see somebody commenting on my Christmas tree. Don't you like that? It's made from old parting bead from Windows, so we don't waste anything around here. Next thing is the appearance, right? So if you get replacement windows, you can see the picture behind me. It's an old house, colonial style house, 6/1s. Yes, for those of you who know I have shutter problems, the shutters don't line up, and I realize that. I'm dealing with it, but it's a beautiful house. So if you replace your windows, they're obviously going to change the appearance of your house. There's a million examples of this. If you've got 6/1s like in this picture of the house behind me, and you replace those with vinyl windows, you're typically going to lose glass size because vinyl is not as strong as wood, so they need more wider frames to support the glass and make sure that the opening is secure. You're also going to probably get, if you're one of those people who gets replacement windows with the grills between the glass, my God, that looks awful and it doesn't match. It doesn't have the same character and depth of field as these historic windows do. So that can change changing the color, changing the material, changing the light pattern really can take away from the house. So do keep that in mind. If you are one of those people who are like, I'm replacing my windows, you're not going to convince me, Scott, that is totally fine. I can't, those convinced against their will are of the same opinion still, right? I can't change your mind, but I will really encourage you to keep the appearance of your house. If you got 6/6 windows, get 6/6 replacements. If you got 2/2 on a Victorian, get 2/2 if you have to do it, if you insist on it. That's the only way to maintain the same style as your house. The windows that were on that house original were the way that the house was designed. It's part of the architecture. It's like changing out that little red front door on the picture behind me too, and getting rid of the glass and putting something completely modern on there. It's just going to look out of place. So you want something that looks the same. With storm windows, you've got far less change to it. So if you add storm windows to the outside of your home, whether they're wood storms, historic looking wood storms, or aluminum storms, you'll see some difference, right? You may see some of them are seasonal. You just have them up for the winter, or if you're in Florida, you have them up for the summer. And you'll see some seasonal differences. But the original windows are still there. The character is still there. Depends what the design of it, of your storm windows. You want to find something maybe low profile that doesn't look quite so imposing on your window. But the ultimate really in keeping the appearance of what you've got is an interior storm window, which changes absolutely nothing on the outside. This house behind me could have interior storm windows, and I would never be able to tell from the street because it's got interior storm windows. I don't see them. They're like a window covering. It's like putting on different drapes. You don't change the look of the window. You keep what that window looks like, and now you've got the energy efficiency without, not even have to go through permits like you may have to do for exterior storm windows or replacement windows, but just a simple install. It's just usually like set it and forget it kind of stuff for interior storm windows. So that's definitely something to think about. So now I'm going to give you some available options. I'm not going to give you available options for replacement windows. Like I've said before, I'm not a huge fan, but if you Google replacement windows, you will find a bazillion places. There's Pella, Marvin, Geldwen. They're everywhere. They're mega companies. They're doing their thing, marketing to everybody about this. But the thing that a lot of people have asked me is like, where can I find good storm windows? So if you're interested in storm windows, I'm going to give you some good options here. One of my favorites is Allied. Allied Windows, they make actual windows too, but they make storm windows, they make interior, they make exterior windows. They make a lot of window products, but they make some very, very good exterior and interior storm windows. Definitely one to check out. Another company to check out is Monray, Monray. They make some excellent interior and exterior storm windows, but Allied and Monray, their main focus is on exterior storm windows, though they do interior as well. And yes, I did just say do. Larson is another company that makes really good storm windows. They make exterior, and I don't know if they make interior. I believe they were playing around with that. I'm not sure if it was released, but I do know they make excellent exterior storm windows as well. And they make storm doors too. Now, if you're thinking about the interior window route, slightly different. Companies for that I really recommend are, for interior storm windows, are Indo Windows. Love their quality, love their stuff. I'm a dealer for them. I sell them down here in Orlando. One of the things I love most about them is you laser measure it to fit your window, and you just press it into place. They're made so precisely, and they're compression fit, so they're like friction fit into the window. No mounting hardware, no complicated install. Any homeowner can do it. That's one of the reasons, that simple aspect of it is why I wanted to be a dealer and why I like them. And their interior storm windows, they really blend in and disappear. Another company that makes very good interior storm windows, has a little bit of a frame, a little bit to install, but still very simple install, is Interglass. Indo is basically an acrylic, and they have different grades, like shade grade or things like that. But they also, the interior storm windows on Interglass, they actually can do glass, unlike Indo. So if you're I don't like plastics kind of person, then maybe Interglass is a way to go for you. They do have plastics, I believe, but I know that their main products are glass. So something to think about there. And they use a compression fit, slightly different than Indo, but it's a good product, and it can really seal the interior, and it hides very well too. Another one that is a good interior storm window is Magnetite. And their slogan is, it's not a storm window, it's Magnetite. And I love that, it's pretty catchy. But Magnetite windows are ones that you basically install, like around the perimeter of the interior of the window, you install some magnets, some very low profile magnets, and then your storm window is basically just acrylic and has a magnetic outer frame, and the magnets hold it in place, and that's how it air seals. I have found that the air sealing for Indos and Interglass are better than Magnetite, but Magnetite still does a good job. So if I had to rank them in terms of their air sealing, that would be Indo, Interglass, and then Magnetite. But I think they're all, it's not like way up here, way down here. They're all very similar, but I feel like I get a tighter seal with Indo than any of the others. Let's go into lifespan, right? How long can you expect your storm windows to last? You tell me. What do you have to do to a storm window? Well, if it's wood, you have to paint it, you have to maintain it. We'll talk about that in a bit. But there's really no lifespan for a storm window. It may sound kind of shocking, but there's not a wear out. If you've got an aluminum storm window, aluminum doesn't rust, right? Unless it's being battered and beat up by a storm or errant baseballs or things like that. A storm window is just glass. Glass doesn't have a lifespan. Single pane glass does not have a lifespan. I'm waving to wave the fly away from me right now. That's what it is, not you guys. But single pane glass doesn't have a lifespan. Aluminum doesn't have a finite lifespan. Wood doesn't have a finite lifespan. They will last pretty much indefinitely. If you want to keep it looking better, obviously you have to clean it. You have to add paint. If it is a wood product, you need to keep it painted at least every decade or so, add a coat of paint to protect it, and do a little bit of maintenance. Maybe you've got glazing putty. If it's a traditional historic storm window, that's something that has to be renewed every 20 to 30, maybe 40 years, depending on its exposure. So think about that aspect of it. Storm windows, really not any kind of specific lifespan to them. Replacement windows, again, depends on what you've got. Clad windows, wood windows, composite, vinyl, things like that. It's usually not the frame that dies unless you have clad windows, which I would advise you to avoid like the plague. Clad windows are basically wood windows with either aluminum or vinyl on the outside or some kind of composite that covers it to protect the wood. But in my experience, what happens is the water still gets into inside the cladding, and then it just sits in there and creates a wood rot stew, and the wood rots away. So your window looks perfect, but you don't realize there's nothing left to it other than like a little shell. So clad windows, the framing just falls apart quickly. But vinyl doesn't have a specific lifespan. It's a petrochemical. It lasts forever, just like the dinosaurs did, seemingly. And then you've got, aluminum windows. If they're replacement windows, aluminum doesn't really wear out too much. What typically wears out on replacement windows is going to be one of two things. One, the mechanics. So if you've got a fixed exterior storm window, there's no mechanics to worry about. It's just a frame held in place. If you've got an operable one, like a triple track storm window, you may have some issues with stuff wearing out. You may want to look at that. With a actual replacement window, now you've got the operability of it. You've got maybe proprietary springs or balances or whatever. Those can wear out over time. I've found they usually at least last a couple decades, if not longer. And what the biggest issue is the double pane glass. So insulated glass units, whether it's double or triple, the seals eventually fail, the gas leaks out, moisture gets in, it fogs up. It's still double pane, right? So it's still maybe a little bit more efficient, but it just looks ugly. You can't really see through it. And that's what encourages most people, I think, to replace their replacement windows. And that's a kind of a joke in the industry why we call them replacement windows, because they're designed to be replaced. So think about that before you go spending double what a storm would be to get a replacement window. If your main window is still in good shape, especially if it's a historic window, try and save that historic window and just add a storm window to it. Because you're going to get a 10 to 20 year lifespan max out of IGUs, out of insulated glass. It just does not last. And this is coming from the reason you might be always biased because there's window restoration. The reason I do window restoration is I tried to get IGUs early on in my career and I couldn't get a warranty past 10 years. It was like, I feel bad selling clients a product that has a 10-year lifespan. That's crap. So I'm not going to sell it, and I'm not going to promote it either because I think it's a bad product. So I think you could do better when you've got an 80-year-old window and you're like, I'm going to replace it for something that lasts 20 years. I'm like, are you kidding me? So that's the lifespan issues. Last thing before we get to your questions, and don't forget, if you're on here on YouTube or Instagram, give me your questions. Start commenting below, and I will get to those after I finish this last part here, is the maintenance requirements. You really don't have, for vinyl, it's not maintainable. So when they say no maintenance product, that means you can't maintain it, right? You can't really paint vinyl very well. There's not much you can do to it. Aluminum, you can paint it. It's a little bit more complicated than wood to paint. You have to use special primers. You have to make sure you take good care of it. But aluminum can be painted. And it's really, the maintenance is just kind of keeping them clean, whether it's a replacement window or you're talking about a storm window, is just keeping it clean. Interior storm windows, the maintenance is almost nothing. Maybe once a year you take it out, you wipe it down with a damp cloth, and you're good to go. Just wiping the dust off of it. Whether it's any of those Indo, Magnetite, Interglass, maybe not even that. Maybe once every 3 years or something. It just depends. Very, very low maintenance. Exterior storm windows, you're going to have a little bit more maintenance, especially if they're wood. You'll need to touch up the paint every couple years. Aluminum, really not much to do. Double hung windows or single hung or replacement windows, I should say, you're going to need a little bit more maintenance because they have weather stripping. There's just more components to wear out. A storm window is a simpler setup, has less to wear out, and therefore requires less maintenance. A replacement window has more things in it that can wear out, that need maintenance, that may need taken care of. And so you're going to have more maintenance, more costs on maintaining a replacement window than you are on a storm and a primary window, depending on what the primary window, the original historic window, is. But by far your least maintenance is going to be an interior storm window on windows. So that's that. And now I have got some questions for you before I jump into the questions. And there are quite a few, but I'm ready to hear more from you guys. I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. That is Abitron. If you go follow them on Instagram, it's at Abitron Inc. If you're on the web, go to abitron.com. They have sponsored these Window Wednesdays. This is the 53rd or so episode I've been doing on Instagram and probably 4th or 5th on YouTube. They sponsor these. They're big supporters of ours, and I love having them because they make some of the best restoration products. We use their wood epoxies, their steel epoxies, bronze epoxies, whatever it needs. You can repair concrete. If it's broken, Abitron probably has an epoxy you can use to fix it. So go check them out. They make amazing, amazing stuff. Give them some love. If you're not following on Instagram, please go follow them. They're always posting pictures of the stuff that they're doing, and it's really cool to see the before, during, and afters. Really fun. So go check that out and give them some love. All right, we are going to dive into some of these questions here. All right, I'm going to take a drink first before we dive in. All right, decided to rehab our old windows using Magnetite to seal. Anything else to do for cold wind? I don't know what Magnetite is. I'm not sure what that is. If it's a seasonal weather stripping, if you're just looking to seal them up, my favorite weather stripping for windows is spring bronze weather stripping. I love that, easy to install for most DIYers and homeowners. I'm not sure what Mortite is. I wish I had more information. I feel like you got me, you stumped me. There's a window question I don't have an answer for. All right, getting lots of ice on the inside of window during during winter, what to do? That's a great question. I just posted something on my blog. It's all about the condensation. So the best way to avoid condensation on your windows on the inside in the winter, and that condensation when it's really cold turns to ice on the inside, is go check out the post that I just put on the craftsmanblog.com. It's the latest window post on there, and it's all about how to avoid that condensation. It's about lowering the humidity levels inside the house. Some things you can do to do that are using some dehumidifiers, allowing some airflow to the windows, like during the day, opening the windows up when it's warmer. If the sun is out, opening it up, letting some airflow get to them. It dries out the condensation, closing them up at night, using some heavier drapes, using ceiling fans, getting the air moving so that it allows the moisture to dry up so it does not just condense on those windows. And when it does condense, it allows it to dry out faster. And it's really about working on your thermostat and your heating system so that you are trying to keep the humidity at a lower level. The lower the temperature you keep it and the lower the humidity you keep it, the less moisture the air can hold, and therefore there's less moisture that can get on your windows. So think about that. Also, lighting a fire is a phenomenal way to seriously dry out the air in your house and help warm things up at the same time. So you're doing double trouble with that. So if you have a fireplace or a wood burning stove or some sort that you can use safely in your house, go for that. That's a great way to help avoid it. The other thing you can do is adding storm windows, like we're talking about. Adding some exterior or interior storm windows do wonders for that. Another question. We have original wood windows with springs. Can those be rehabbed circa 1967? Possibly, probably. 67, I'm not sure what the springs are. It just depends. There's a lot of stuff out there. I have some resources on the craftsmanblog.com you can check out. If you want to DM me a picture of the springs you have, I might give you a sense of where you can find them. A couple sources for old window hardware are Blaine Window Repair and Strybuck, Strybuc. And another one you can go to is CR Lawrence, Laurence. But check those out. They have old window hardware from mid-century and things like that. I just bought a number 2 point driver. When should I use size 1 and size 2 diamond points? Good question. Size 1 diamond points are I use those for like 95% of windows. When I use size 2, which are the larger diamond points, I use them on doors because that door is getting slammed possibly and I want the glass to sit in place. And I use it on very large panes of glass or very thick panes of glass. So glass over 3 by 3. So over 9 square feet and over, I'm using number 2 points, or if it's extra thick, like maybe like 1/4 inch or thicker glass, I'm going to use the number 2 diamond points as well. And you can find those diamond points along with a bunch of other things to restore your windows at thecraftsmanstore.com, so check that out. Can I work on windows in the colder seasons? We haven't been here long. These windows need love ASAP. Yes, you can work on your windows in the colder seasons. One thing you do want to keep in mind is if you are working on them in the colder seasons, I've got a post on how to paint in cold weather on the Craftsman blog. Check that out. Some paints will go down to 35 degrees. That's great. Glazing putties, the Sarco, the Austin's Glazer's putty, the stuff I recommend and have in my store, it does not cure very well unless the temperature is over the 50s, so over 50 degrees. Once you get into the 40s, it takes a real long time to cure. So if you are going to do some reglazing, you can certainly do that in the winter. It's not an issue of it freezing or anything like that. It just won't skin over to be ready for paint. So you could like scrape, repair, prime, glaze your window, and you just can't paint the glazing putty until it has skinned over, which might be in the spring. So consider that. But you can certainly work on them. If you want to take them out, put them in your house, take the sash out, work on them in your garage, maybe use a little space heater, work on them in the house, let them cure in the house. You can do that too. That may not be something your spouse wants you to do, but that is a good way to keep working through the winter. I tend to pull one window out at a time, board it up, work on it in warmer weather in my house or garage or in my shop, and then put it back in when I'm done, and then grab the next one. So that way I have a climate-controlled environment. How to get the upper sash down when there's so many layers of paint, heat, and strip. Yeah, I mean, using a razor knife to cut it free, using a pry bar, using a sash saw, that's a tool we have in our store. that is designed for cutting the paint free on casements and double hung and single hung windows. Just cutting all that excess paint away using those right tools. Eventually you will get it moving. You can strip it right there in place, but I tend to just cut the paint, let it be rough, and then do my stripping back in the garage. That sounds awful. I do my stripping in the garage. I do my paint scraping in the garage. That's a little bit better. How to prevent condensation from forming on interior storms when they're closed. So it's something to think about when the storms are closed and if you're getting condensation between your prime window and your storm, you may, if you don't have like weep holes on your storm or a little bit of ventilation, exterior storms are not meant to be completely sealed off. They do need to have a little bit of ventilation from time to time to avoid moisture building up between them. It's the same thing that happens double pane windows. You can't just prop those storms open. Double pane windows, can't do that. It is what it is. You can't even clean it when it gets in there. So, putting a little block in there, letting it air out a little bit, maybe during the day, and then closing it up again at night. That's something good. I have seen a couple clients that have done something I thought was pretty clever, was tossing a bag of damp rid between their storm window and their window. It absorbs the moisture in there and you get less condensation. So something to think about right there. And another question here: how to make old windows more energy efficient? So hot in summer and cold in winter. Yeah, I mean, glass is meant for you to look out, and windows are meant for you to get air. So that's the problem. Your windows, no matter what you do to them, are going to be one of the least efficient parts of your building envelope. They're not the biggest contributor to heating and cooling, like we talked about. That is your attic insulation, your roof, all that stuff. It's air sealing that. But your windows, add some weather stripping to them. There are seasonal weather strips you can use in the winter when most people are not really opening their windows. Or if you're down in the south and you don't open your windows in the summer, you can put that on. There's things like rope caulk. There are these little window insulating kits made by Red Devil that you can put on your house and on your window and seal it up. There's some seasonal caulks that are meant to be like applied and seal it up, and then you pull it. You need to peel that caulk off in the spring. So there's some options on there for seasonal stuff, but I've also got a lot of resources on the blog for energy efficiency or window stuff that you can do, as well as on YouTube. There's quite a few videos I have on there you can check out for ways to cure drafty windows or make them more energy efficient. My old windows are painted over. Can I ever open them again? 100%. If you are stronger than paint, which I think most of us are, or if you are smarter than paint, then you can cut through that paint and you can get those windows moving again. So think about that. It's just cutting them loose, right? They've been painted shut. You can get it taken care of. I know you can. I love this question. This is one of my favorite questions this week, is where to start. Where to start? I mean, start at the beginning. Do that. If you really are wanting to restore your windows and fix them up, I would encourage you guys, go check out my course, thewindowcourse.com. I'll put the link in the description on YouTube, and you can always find that on my bio on Instagram. But go check out thewindowcourse.com. Right now I'm doing a sale through the month of October. So fast this year. Through the month of November, where if you buy the window course, you'll not only get a free IR paint stripper, which is an awesome value, $130, $129, or you'll also get a free access in the month of November to my weather strip basics course, which teaches you how to deal with integrated metal weather stripping. It teaches you how to install spring bronze weather stripping. It shows you some videos for seasonal weather stripping options. It really gives you the lowdown on how to weather strip your windows and how to just get the energy efficiency out of your windows. But the great thing about the window course is it walks you through everything step by step. It gives you the anatomy, shows you how to restore your window, how to take it apart, how to put it back together, what tools to use, all the why behind it, and how to do it. It will teach you everything you need to do. And it is, when you think about hiring somebody to restore your windows, tens of thousands of dollars, or some people with a ton of windows, even hundreds of thousands of dollars possibly, you're going to spend hundreds of dollars instead on this course and do it yourself. So you can save buku bucks, mega money on that. So think about it. Would remaking wood window screens into storm windows help with energy efficiency? Absolutely it would. I've got a YouTube video on that called DIY storm windows. Definitely check those out. It teaches you how to build your own storm windows. It's very similar to screens. You can just take the screening off, make some simple modifications, and you probably can have some fully functional storm windows right there. Another question: how to remove fixed attic window panes that have a stop on each side with mitered edge. Probably if you've got fixed panes, fixed attic window up there, and the stops are what's holding it in. If you pry that stop off, you more than likely are going to have to cut a little bit of caulk and paint, but you should be able to get that attic window out. Just hard to say without seeing it. And another question, how does restoration process differ if I wanted stained sealed wood for the inner side, not painted? Really not much different. You're going to do everything the same, except once you get done with your repairs and everything, you are going to hit it with a coat of stain. And I prefer to use a sanding sealer or a coat of varnish right away. Spar varnish is a good one for it. And put that on and then glaze your window, and then do 2 more coats of varnish on there until the sheen looks level and even. And that's how you do it instead of putting 2 coats of paint. So you're just using stain. If you are using an epoxy, I did a video a couple weeks ago on how to tint epoxies. That's something you may want to think about too. It's going to show up obviously if you've got rot that you're repairing with wood epoxy. That may not be the most attractive way to do it. So think about that option. All right, let me see a couple more questions here. Is there a size limitation for making storms? I suppose there is a limit, but it's got to be pretty big. Really, it's the size glass or plastic is usually what modifies it, unless you got a window that's over 16 feet by 16 feet, because I can find nominal lumber that's 16 feet, right? So anything smaller than a 16 by 16 window, and you can do it. Glass sheets, you know, what's safe to handle. I mean, we usually get glass sheets that are 3 by 5 or 4 by 6 you can find. You can find larger than that, but you know, I'd probably break up those glass sizes a little bit, but other than that, there's really no size limitations. See another question here from the comments. I've been looking into doing a DIY storm screen combo, wood windows. None has any YouTube videos yet. Hopefully you have some ideas on how to make one and post a video one day. I am doing that right now. It is, well, I'm hoping I'm gonna have it early December for you guys. That's my goal right now. So I've drawn up my plans, I've got my dimensions. I'm waiting on, basically the delay is from all the delightful shipping delays, is I'm waiting on for some materials to get in here for it. So once I get them, I can start putting it all together, but I've drawn it all up, and I will have a video and some plans for it before the end of the year, I will say. I know that's later than you want, but it is what it is in 2021. So somebody said, I do a lot of stripping on the porch. Neighbors take notice. Thanks, Chowline. I can understand how your neighbors would take notice, and hopefully they're enjoying it. Lala Lovey, always appreciate you putting the comments on there. Do you save the live videos so that we can watch them in the future? Yes. So if you're on YouTube, these are all posted on there. You can find them. And on Instagram, they are in my Instagram TV, my IGTV. You've got 53 episodes of Window Wednesday Live, some of them with demos, some of them me talking and teaching you guys. So definitely check those out, and you will find some good stuff in there. And I've got some comments here on YouTube going to grab now. Any recommendations for storm window companies in Canada? Every place I call says they don't do them anymore and constantly urge me to replacement windows. Might make wooden storms myself at this rate. I'm pretty sure you can get Allied and Monterey to ship you storm windows up there in Canada. I don't know if they have any dealers or how that works. But definitely check out their websites and see if they've got somebody, Larson, maybe another company that may be able to sell. If they've got a dealer up there, they can work on it, but I understand everybody wants you to do replacement windows rather than storm, so you may be just stuck building your own storm windows, which is what it is sometimes. Another one, a little off topic. Okay, let's see. However, have you run across any Bowles patent wood revolving tilt-in sash windows, and if so, how have they held up? I have not run across any of those. I have heard of them, but I have not run across them, so I can't give you any feedback on that. But one more last question on here. Any book recommendations on learning about Windows? I might have a few recommendations. I'm always going to steer you to mine first, right? So I've written 2 books on the subject of Windows, and one of them is Old Windows Made Easy, which is my first book on Windows. Very simple, 75 pages. It's my step-by-step process in a book form on how to restore Windows. And then I followed up with Old Windows in Depth, which includes Old Windows Made Easy. And then it's basically twice as long. Has a lot of additional bonus material on weather stripping, on glass, painting options, I delve deeper into almost everything on that topic. But they're both very actionable books. The other book that I would recommend is the I think it's the Window Sash Bible. Steve Jordan has done that book. I always forget it's the Window Bible or the Sash Bible, but it's a phenomenal book, very in-depth. If you really, really love Windows, like I really, really love old Windows, then that's a great book to dig into. But it's a big sucker that you can sit on your coffee table. One more, Tattoo Tendrils asked me, can I ask a non-window question? What do you recommend for plaster repair? Am I terrible if I use joint compound? Asking for a friend. I know who you're asking for. So I know it's on window related, but let's finish with that one. Is for plaster repair, I really like, if you got sanded plaster, go use Big Wally's plaster, what is it, patching plaster. We sell that in the store. It's great stuff. You can use joint compound, especially if you're talking about thin, very smooth plaster and small portions. I also like to use, what's the stuff I can use is just veneer plaster for some things, because I can add some sand to that and I can trowel it a little bit smoother. But if you're good with joint compound, I don't think there's any problem with that. So, all right, y'all, we've gone 40 minutes. Thank you so much for coming here. Love having you on these Window Wednesdays. Hope to see you next week. We are going to do this again. We do it every week at 6 o'clock. Always love seeing you guys here and talking Windows. And if you have questions, and even if you don't have questions, you just want to reach out, shoot me a message, comment on YouTube, shoot me some DMs on Instagram, and we will catch up with you next week. Thanks, folks.